Hey. Taff, out of this world story from our space. Met up after 2 months of no contact. Thoughts and reflections. Got dumped approximately 10 weeks ago. 5-year relationship. From our mid-20s to early 30s. I was going to an event near our old place, where she still lives. I invited her along, breaking about 2 months of rock-solid no contact. We did meet up once in this period, and it was me pathetically pleading to her to reconsider. That went about as well as you can imagine. She was very guarded at first and insisted she couldn't stay long. I don't know what came over me, but instead of being sad, I was my normal, charming, funny self. We got up, laughed, and remembered old times over some drinks. When it was time to go, she pushed to continue the evening to get dinner. Things continued to go well, though we did talk about some sorrowful moments in passing. I walked her home and said hi to the dog we raised together. I went to the washroom, and when I returned, I saw her standing there, in the middle of our old living room. She gave me a look I've seen 1,000 times before. The eyes, or whatever you like to call it. When you've known someone for so long, you recognize the body language. Normally, after a night like this, I'd grab her and kiss her. This time, I fought every instinct I had and just thanked her for the evening and wished her good night. I'm proud of myself, if not a little remiss. I do miss the physical intimacy, but there was no way this would rekindle our relationship. Sex, or whatever might have happened, would just bring further pain for at least one of us. I think holding out hope is silly. At this point, I've accepted it. But it was a bittersweet reminder of love, of a connection with someone that I'd like to find again someday. Let's see what the community thought of this. RumFan56 said, "Why did she break up with you?" The OP replies, "For my part, I had severe depression in the last year when finishing my grad program and moving out to be with her. Finding a job, having no money, and being in a brand new city was really rough for me. I wasn't the best boyfriend, and even after I got my crap together, there was just too much resentment on both sides. Her resentment fed into my own, and it spiraled from there. She refused couples therapy. As soon as I had economic stability, she asked me to leave. She initially used taking a break language, and then on the eve of the move blindsided me with, 'This is a full breakup. Don't expect us to get back together.' Update on r/surviving infidelity. Anyone find out about cheating after the breakup? I, 32 male, and nearly 7 months out of my last and only serious relationship of 5 years. My ex, 34 female, ended things. She signaled that she didn't want the relationship to continue and made life miserable until moved out. Constantly annoyed by me, insulted my looks, lost her temper for the slightest things, and no sex or physical affection. In the time between then, we've seen each other about once a month. She did not want anything to do with me initially, but after 2 months of no contact, we developed the monthly cadence we had going. Dinner and drinks, but nothing else. We caught up last month, and that's when we started treading new territory, discussing the new people we were dating. I honestly dreaded having this convo, but in reality, it was quite refreshing. While sharing stories, she came clean that she had a rebound that she became seriously emotionally invested in. I casually guessed when it had ended, when she broke no contact, 2 months post-breakup. She was clearly extremely depressed, so it must have been around then. I was a bit surprised that such an avoidant attachment-style person like my ex could fall for someone in 2 months. It's just not like her. So I asked when the relationship started. Yeah, you guessed it. She choked on the spot. She had been cheating for at least 4 months. It's like when the twist gets revealed at the end of a movie. So many things started to weave together. I honestly didn't expect this from her. She made such a big deal about how cheating disgusted her and how fundamental her dad's cheating was to her trauma. Of course, she initially tried to pin it on me. At the time, she was pressuring me about marriage out of the blue. She had never wanted to before, but something I was always working towards. And I got freaked out. She wanted to make plans within the year, and I couldn't have that convo because we desperately needed to talk to several issues we were having. I was stressed out, and I emphatically tabled the conversation until my work responsibilities calmed down. Apparently, after rejecting her, she made the decision to cheat. It's BS. She came up with an excuse to see her fair partner, a mechanic that had a crush on her, 2 weeks before the marriage discussion. I'm guessing she had already made the decision to cheat, and the marriage talk made her pull the trigger on moving forward with replacing me. I'm struggling quite a bit. Before this revelation, I was feeling really proud of my healing journey, but being delivered with this has been absolutely devastating. I'll tell you what, it has been healthy to kill the last shred of hope I had to reconcile with her. She absolutely disgusts me. I can't imagine ever touching her again. We have some community comments, first from EW, say a bunch of random letters. I'd say you're probably one of the lucky ones who found out the truth. Many betrayed end up with a partner leaving, and despite red flags, never find out for certain if they were cheated on. They have only suspicion, which can lead to self-blame and self-doubt. Buzak says, the cold, harsh reality is that women generally don't break up with their man unless they have someone else lined up ready to replace you, a term known as monkey branching. This is exactly what happened to me. My first serious relationship with a woman for 2.5 years. She ended up blocking me on everything and disappearing for a month, and my best friend of 20 plus years that I grew up with also mysteriously disappeared for a month. I had to learn from my mutual friend that they moved in together. All the signs were there months ago, but I was too blind to see it since I kept justifying and making up excuses for my ex-girlfriend and my ex-best friend suspicious activities. She also did what your ex did, accusing me of cheating and saying how she has zero tolerance for cheating. Apparently her father is a cheater too, and she hates that. She was simply projecting in the end. My ex-best friend is also a serial cheater, so I guess that's the type of man she gravitates towards. Update 2. Recently remembered, my ex, a lawyer, took their affair partner on as a client while we were together. Potentially serious ramifications if one were to report it. Stuck on what to do. Long story short, my ex, 34 female, cheated for the last 4 months of our 5-year relationship. During this time, she took affair partner on as a client. She did tell me at the time affair partner was her mechanic, and I didn't think anything of it. She was working at a family friend's firm, but has since left to join a new one. The affair partner is still being represented by family friend. In the state we're in the US, this is a potential bar violation. Technically, if the sexual conduct began before representation, then it's not a violation. But this carve-out is really meant for spouse and domestic partners. Considering she had a long-term live-in partner at the time, that was not said client, it's not a particularly good look. Would you report this? I only made the realization recently, and now I obsess of the possibility of an above-board revenge after having to work through much darker fantasies. My friends and family are urging me not to, mostly out of how cruel it would be to F with someone's livelihood, and that it is not fostering my attempts at moving on. However, I've really been blessed with such an amazing opportunity. It pains me to let it slip like this. I do think this would be the cruelest thing I've ever done in my life, and it gives me pause to think that it actually attempted to torpedo her career. There's a very low chance that she'd actually be disbarred, should most likely get a warning, and I believe the timeline actually is protected by the rules. Still, if reported, these facts would get thrown into the light of her professional career and would definitely blow things up. It also certainly leaks into her family, who mostly don't know about the cheating, and cause the drama there as well. OP, what you're going through is difficult, but focusing on getting even won't make it better. In a scheme of things, this is a minor conflict. Instead, concentrate on winning the bigger conflict, your own development and future fulfillment. It won't benefit you in the long run to interfere with your ex's professional endeavors. Instead, put this energy to work improving yourself and moving forward. Keeping in touch and going out to dinner with your ex might be causing the wounds to stay open. In order to speed up your healing, it might be best to completely cut ties. Gain knowledge from this encounter and develop into a better version of yourself. Time will aid in the wound's recovery. Keep moving forward and keep concentrating on the good. We've got some other reactions. First from Exotic Mango 2768. I'm a lawyer. The carve-out for pre-existing relationships does not only apply to spouses or partners. This is going to be a nothing burger for the bar. You just need to try and move on. Red Crane Lives says, lawyers tend to protect their own. Doesn't sound solid enough that anything will really happen to her. The downside is you give her attention and fuel to complain that you are the problem in the relationship. Icy Scratch 7822 says, what will most likely happen is it will be ignored. It may be an issue if the client complained and said he or his case was somehow compromised. I concur with your friends and family. Move on. Jen Randy wants to say, I'm a lawyer. This is not an ethics rules violation. It's a moral violation, but it isn't ethical. The exception for pre-existing sexual relationships isn't just for spouses. She could have been banging 10 people and could have taken them on as clients afterwards and continued to bang them, and it's not a violation of the ethics rules. I know of one person who had his license suspended because he started having sex with a client after she had retained him. Obvious ethics violation. The purpose of the rule is to ensure clients aren't being taken advantage of. Think how prison guards are strictly prohibited from having sex with inmates. It's all about abuse of authority. So sorry this happened to you. It was wrong. But at some point, you just gotta move forward. Back in the real world, as one more thing before I move on. Dude, you've been broken up with your ex-girlfriend for almost a year, and you didn't even know about the other man when you broke up. You haven't been blessed with an opportunity. You've been buried in your obsession and found another way to try and hurt her. Instead of meeting with her for dinner and catching up, try meeting with a therapist and working on letting this albatross of a relationship go. Next up, buckle up for a sitcom-style encounter. Has anyone run into the ex, or affair partner, or both, after the breakup or divorce? Or has the ex tried to contact you? How did it go? Throwaway account. A few weeks ago, I ran into my ex and his wife, aka the woman he cheated on me with, for the first time in 8 years, at a restaurant, and I introduced him to when we were still dating. The woman he cheated on me with was his old childhood friend that moved away, and he was convinced that she was the one that got away. So when she came back into town and started texting him, they dramatically rekindled their everlasting love and passion and sex and blah 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 for each other. Anyway, I ran into him and affair partner when I was on a date with my fiancé at a restaurant. It looked as if he and his affair partner were finishing their food when my fiancé and I arrived, so I was spared mega awkwardness. He stared the whole time he was there with his wife, especially at my fiancé, whereas the affair partner looked pissed the whole time he was staring. Also, instead of taking the shortcut to leave the restaurant, he took the long route to specifically pass by our table, and we made eye contact. He did a really awkward smile and wave, but I had my resting face on, so I didn't smile. He and his wife eventually left. I received an email from him less than a week later, with him saying something along the lines of, "I think I saw you at," into restaurant's name. "I didn't know you were in town. You look well. It was really rude of you to ignore my wave, though. Usually when someone waves at you, you wave back, especially if it is someone you know. I know we didn't leave things on best terms, but I was trying to extend an olive branch to you. I even wanted to catch up with you someday, but I see you aren't interested in keeping the peace. I won't try to contact you again." I haven't responded yet because I'm at the stage in my life where I don't see the good in letting an energy vampire suck the life out of me again. So what are your stories? Have you run into an ex-affair partner in public? Edit. Thank you all so much for your responses, my internet friends. As I've mentioned in the comments, I have this tendency to self-doubt myself, and although I didn't want to have anything to do with them, I still thought that I was being too rude by not waving or smiling. But these comments have reinforced my decision not to respond. A few things that were requested for me to talk about. I am 29 female, turning 30 in early June. Yay! And my ex and his wife are approximately 33 years old. I got together with my ex when I was very young. I was 18 and fresh into university, and he was in his last year, 21 nearing 22. I met him through two mutual friends because he was a university mentor to them. So because my relationship with him was my first serious relationship, I thought the more toxic traits of him and his family were normal. For example, his family would always bring up a affair partner, who was his childhood friend, at every gathering I was invited to. They would wish that she was present with us, and would even video chat with her during the gathering to ensure that she wasn't left out. During family gatherings, and at home, my ex would leave the room to talk, and he would confess that he was actually talking to her, but he would strictly say that they were friends. I expressed my concerns with him about his family and his behaviors, but at the time, he painted me as the insecure one. I was so young that I just took it. When affair partner moved back into town, my ex admitted that he had been talking to her for a while and was planning on meeting up with her. But he always told me that he's just a friend, that he loves me, and that I was misreading the situation, that I don't trust him, that I should feel happy that his friend moved back into town. After that, I felt uncomfortable around her. His family would always invite her to family gatherings, where she would hardly address me. Whenever she did look at me, it was always with smugness, and my ex would act oblivious. I eventually went through his Facebook and saw various instances of them talking about the escapades. He would always talk about how much he loved her, and he never stopped thinking about her, and she would return the favor. Affair partner would always pester him to leave me, and he responded with, "Soon, it's just that if I do it now, she'll fall to pieces." I eventually confronted him, and after days of denying it, even though I had his messages, he eventually broke and told me he loved her. We broke up that day, and over the next few weeks, I moved cities to be with my sister. As soon as I moved out, affair partner moved in. Ex's parents made a show of saying how much they loved their daughter, the affair partner, on Facebook, and how much they missed her. My parents and siblings always hated his parents and him, but I ignored them. We were together for 3.5 years, so I was 22 when he left me. I didn't date anyone for years after because I was so scared of being hurt again. I wouldn't bring these issues up with my mutuals, but they would dismiss my concerns, stating that I was young and I would eventually get over it. But in the same breath, they would still make a show of hanging out with my ex and affair partner. So I eventually left those friendships. When my ex said, "I didn't know you were in town," I was referring to my old college town, which he still lived in with a affair partner. When the restaurant story took place, I was visiting a friend in my old college town for her big 30th, and my fiancé came with me for a little mini vacation. My fiancé is 35 male. I met him when I was 25. It's admirable how well you handled such a difficult situation with strength and maturity. Regarding your ex's email, it appears to be an effort to steer the conversation and assign blame. He ignores the harm he caused in favor of expecting a wave or smile. Given the circumstances, your response was appropriate. Your current relationship should take precedence, and it's best to refrain from contacting your ex because doing so could upend the serenity and happiness you found. You made a smart choice by choosing not to reply to his email. You owe him nothing. It's crucial to keep your eyes on the present and the future, safeguarding your tranquility even if it means disregarding a wave. Rad to the Bone 22 says, "Yes, it was awful. My town celebrates First Fridays in the warmer months. I love going to town events and never miss them. I was rounding a corner and there he was, with his new baby in a stroller and the woman he left me for. Our eyes locked. We both froze. We had an, oh crap, look come across his face. I kept walking. I said, 'Congratulations,' as I passed him. He said, 'Thank you,' but his voice was low and shaky. They don't live anywhere near the town. I'm sure he came back because part of him misses his old life. I hate that I can't feel safe in my own town anymore." OK Blueberry 7244 says, "I'd just ignore his email. Wouldn't be fair to your fiancé to respond to your ex. Your ex sounds like a creep. You don't have to wave to people. That's so weird in the first place. That he even thought he was owed recognition from you. You don't even owe him a head nod, let alone a wave. His wife can wave to him. You stay out of the gutter. Don't let him drag you into it." Mycoplasma Throwaway says, "What a freaking narc. I won't try to contact you again. No one asked you to, dickwad." Revolutionary Hat 688 says, A lot of keeping in touch phone calls. After a while, I realized she was just checking to see if I was still pining for her. Once she realized that I was well and far away from her and her nonsense, the calls started decreasing. The icing on the cake was when I told her I was going to propose my girlfriend in a well-known national outdoor setting. There was a noticeable pause and some half-assed congratulations, and then for the last 30-plus years, blessed silence. Brief Blueberry chimes in, "Wow, I honestly am laughing at the fact that your clown of an ex actually took the time to write out a message like that to someone he had wronged so horrifically and thought it was a good idea to hit send. The whole comment about it being rude not to wave back to someone you know had me bust out laughing in my car. Since he's such an expert on common courtesy, doesn't he know that it's also really rude to cheat on someone you claim to love?" The pity part of me would almost want to send that back as reply, but that would do you no good because that is exactly what he wants. Attention from you, a reaction or response to his message, either positive or negative. I almost wonder if he did it purposely to include that comment, thinking it would incite a reaction from you. Don't fall for his games. Chances are he's unhappy in his relationship and looking to stir up trouble for his own selfish gain. If I were you, I'd show the message to my fiancé, then delete it and block your ex. Go on living your best life. One more comment from Dave Bowman, 1968. "I was driving away from a lawyer appointment and had a friend in the car just as moral support because I might run into my soon-to-be ex-wife that had suddenly asked to separate, and then I found out she had been cheating on me for many months prior. Driving away from the lawyer appointment, I saw my ex pull up in her old car, which she got as part of the settlement. My friend with me in the car just happened to be female, and just happened to be digging around in her purse on the floor of the car. She popped her head up just as my wife drove past, making it look exactly like I was getting a BJ, which I wasn't. But wow, was my ex mad about it, which was funny because she was on to boy toy 3 or 4 by that point." Thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. And if you like what you see and hear, please let us know in the comments below. Until next time.